Hello everyone, this is Tony from Divetech in Grand Cayman. The new Swift wireless air integration transmitter from Shearwater Research is out, and there's already a lot of videos and reviews covering it. What many of these videos and reviews miss, however, is using the Swift if you're a rebreather diver, and specifically how it works with the Shearwater NERD2. Many of you already know the NERD2 supports wireless air integration and will display your diluent and O2 pressure on your display. Formerly, the NERD2 would only support 2 transmitters, but with the release of the Swift along with Shearwater Firmware version 84, the NERD2 can now support up to 4. This is a great addition because a typical rebreather diver will usually have at least 3 tanks on them. Now, this video is not going to get into the argument of whether you should or should not use a transmitter on a rebreather. Rather, I'm going to quickly show you how it works with your rebreather if you're using the NERD2 and how it displays the information on the screen. I'm only talking about the NERD2 because unfortunately, air integration is not possible on the petrol handset or the NERD1. I'm not going to discuss the Perdix or the Teric because while these computers support air integration and constant PO2 decompression, they don't support rebreather O2 sensor monitoring. The NERD2 is the only device in Shearwater's lineup that does both. So let's take a look at how it does it. Looking at our NERD display, we can see it looks exactly like a petrol rebreather display. When we do a right button push, we see the compass come up, and one more right button push brings up our air integration. Right now it's showing a single transmitter. If you have 2 of them, it appears like this. Here is how 3 of them look. And if we switch to 4 transmitters, what it does is it stacks the last 2 one on top of the other like you see here on the right. With Firmware version 84, we can now name the transmitters with a 2-digit identifier. On previous firmware versions, they were simply labeled T1 and T2. Now we can change that. It's worth noting, however, that the characters you're able to select are quite limited. You can't just use any letter or number combination you want. The first digit has to be an O, D, B, T, or S, and the second digit has to be a 1 through 4. That is slightly disappointing. I really wish you could use any letter or number combination that you wanted to. Shearwater, if you're watching, please change that in your next firmware release. That said, of course, it's very workable. I have my transmitter set to be O2 for oxygen, D1 for my diluent, B1 and B2 for my bailout tanks. To access transmitter settings, we go into System Setup, AI Setup Screen, then select TX Setup. Here you can pair new transmitters, turn them on and off, and rename them. When we click on the identifier number in the subscreen, you can assign a rated pressure for the cylinder and a reserve pressure for the cylinder. When your cylinder pressure goes below these thresholds, it will alert you on the main dive screen. This subscreen is also where we can name the transmitter. Another nice change on version 84 is the stack timer now goes into negative values. For those unaware, Shearwater Firmware version 53, released in February of 2018, added a stack timer or a CO2 scrubber duration timer. On previous firmware versions, when the stack timer hit 0, it just stayed there showing 0. Now with version 84, if you overrun your stack timer, it will tell you how much over the limit you actually are. Another cool feature about all of this is the data logging with the Shearwater Cloud. If you sync your NERD with the Cloud app, it records all sorts of dive data, including millivolt readings, tank pressures, temperature, and decompression information, along with your depth and time. Last point is the O2 compatibility of the transmitter. Some people might be nervous about using wireless transmitters on an oxygen bottle. Is there an issue with doing this? Well, if we look at the Shearwater website, under the Swift Frequently Asked Questions section, we see this question: is the Swift O2 compatible? And the answer is, Swift transmitters are built with O2 compatible materials, however the Swift itself is not shipped O2 clean. I personally use the Shearwater wireless high pressure transmitters on my O2. I've done so for many years and thousands of dives. I know of a lot of other rebreather divers who are doing the same thing without incident. However, the lack of an incident doesn't mean it's completely safe, so please use your own judgment on this, and if you feel that it is not safe, don't do it. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you diving with us soon.